Today, in our GialloZafferano kitchen, we're going to make a sourdough starter. We're going to create a hard dough that can be used for sweet or savory yeast-based recipes. Let's see how. Let's start preparing a starter, which is going to be a bait, a starting point for our natural yeast. The ingredients are raisins, water, strong Manitoba flour, weak zero flour. Let's start by washing and cleaning the raisins from dust and possible paraffins. Just pour some hot water on the raisins, move them around with water so that you can take away all the dirt. Put the raisins in a bowl. Add kneaded water and leave them sinking in water for 20 minutes. Like this will make the fruit's fibre softer, so it'll be easier to blend them. We have some ready. Now with an immersion blender, let's blend not too smoothly our mixture. Now add flour. The flour that we're going to use consists of 2/3 of strong Manitoba flour and 1/3 of weak zero flour. Using a rubber spatula, stir the mixture. When it's ready, pour it in a jar. The jar has to be big, and the yeast has to be at least below 1/6 of the actual jar. A very humid gauze to cover our jar, and an elastic band will keep the gauze still. Keep the jar for 48 hours at room temperature. After that, we're going to feed it for the first time. After 48 hours, our starter is ready to be fed. We're going to feed it with a strong Manitoba flour, weak zero-type flour, water and starter. Pour a portion of the starter. Here it is. 2/3 of the strong Manitoba flour, 1/3 of type 0 flour. Now we pour the water that measures 50% of the starter's weight. Let's start creating our dough. Be sure to clean carefully the glass bowl, stirring with the back of the spoon on the bowl and without going too much in the middle. Collect all the powder, all the flour that is still on the bowl. 1, 2, 3. Our dough is ready. Now let's start kneading, trying to obtain a nice and smooth dough. The table helps. Then put the dough back in the bowl, like this. Changing from the table to the bowl frequently and backwards guarantees you to have a more oxygenated and harder dough. First one way, then the other way, this time without adding any more flour. Oxygenating the dough in the bowl, stirring it, gives you the opportunity to create waterproof layers, so that you can knead the dough on the table without leaving too many sticky bits. Knead it well with your hands on the table until it's smooth. Let's take our jar, take off the rubber ring so that oxygen flows in and out, but above all, so that the starter's gases can come out. Close the jar. Keep it to room temperature for 31 days. freshening it every 48 hours. After 31 days, our yeast is ready. It's ready for its last feeding. In 31 days, as the mass grew, we also changed the jar, so let's use different jar every time you feed it. The ingredients are water, strong Manitoba flour, weak type 0 flour. Let's start. Let's take a portion of the yeast. Obviously, you have to get rid of the part on top and only use the heart. A portion of the yeast, 2/3 of Manitoba flour, strong flour, 1/3 of type 0 flour, water for 50% of the flour's weight. Let's start mixing, always using the back of the spoon, making it touch at the inside of the bowl. This method allows us to stir without too much effort and to always have an even dough. Now we can put our mixture on the table and continue using our hands. Always fold it and then press it. Like this. The closing part towards us. One way first, and then the other. In order to give the dough strength before making the dough smooth, we're going to help ourselves with a rolling pin. Like this. Just a little bit of flour. Always folding it. Remember, this always has to be done before the dough is smooth. Keep going until you see that the dough is strengthened up. To know if it's got enough strength, you have to feel it. If it's resistant enough. When the dough has strengthened up, try and stretch it. Make it as long and as flat as possible. Like this. Try and close the dough in the opposite of how you were closing it before. The last step. With a knife, cut a cross on it. Perfect. Let's place our little yeast in the center of the bowl. Close with a kitchen towel. It never has to be closed hermetically. Wait 3 hours, and after 3 hours, put it in the fridge. This is what a ready yeast looks like. It has wonderful smells. From lactic, so yogurt-like smell. An acidic smell, but very light, without it being too strong. The color is beautiful, it's white. Doesn't turn to ivory. Let's start our refreshment. Before being fed, pure yeast needs a bath. Take off its skin, the bleached external parts like this. The yeast seems healthy. As you can see from the inside, it has a nice spongy texture, and above all, it has a nice bright color. Let's start with the bath. Hot water, sugar, there isn't a given quantity. Leave it at the bottom of the bowl without dissolving it. At this point you have to cut the yeast in a lot of pieces, squeezed in order to eliminate air and gas, the tiny, and then leave it in the water and sugar mix for 20 minutes. This is a step to clean the yeast. Put in some water and sugar at the bottom of the bowl. The bad microorganisms are going to come out of the yeast to feed on sugar. Like this, we can have pure yeast. To freshen the yeast, the ingredients are yeast, 2/3 of Manitoba flour, 1/3 of type 0 flour, and water. Let's start the feeding. Yeast, Manitoba flour, the type 0 flour, and water. Let's take a spoon, and just like before, let's do a uniform mixture. Little bit of flour, keeping stretching the dough until the dough doesn't get enough strength. Okay. When you have a nice and smooth dough, cut it in two. One part is going to be used, as the recipe says, after 3 hours, leaving it at room temperature always in this roll shape. The second part is going to be the mother for the next times. So, 3 hours at room temperature, and then in the fridge. This is our natural hard yeast. Managing hard yeast is a very delicate thing. It has to be freshened, regenerated every 48 hours, not more, to have a perfect yeast. Only let 48 hours go by. It's very important for our yeast to stay in the fridge and never closed hermetically. Never forget, this is a technical yeast, okay? The perfect yeast for complicated recipes like panettone or dove bread. Don't abandon it in the fridge. Every 48 hours, it has to be taken out and refreshed. The best would be if you had the time to do it every day. Good yeast to everyone.